This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Former President Ronald Reagan will undergo skull surgery this weekend in Minnesota. It is to relieve a buildup of fluid on Mr. Reagan's brain, reportedly the result of his horseback riding accident 2 months ago. Correspondent Phil Jones reports on the former president's health.
It was during the former president's routine physical examination at Mayo Clinic that doctors found a small collection of fluid on Mr. Reagan's brain. Physicians believe this is a direct result of internal bleeding caused when President Reagan was thrown off a wild horse during a trip to Mexico in July. Surgery to drain the blood and other fluids can be done under general or local anesthetic.
It's a relatively common procedure and one that, if everything goes well, is ordinarily not considered terribly serious.
The fluid collected on the right side of the head between Mr. Reagan's skull and brain. It will be drained by drilling small holes about the size of a dime through the skull. Sometimes doctors add a shunt overnight to complete drainage. The operation is normally safe and needed to avoid serious problems later.
These fluid collections can expand and press on the brain and cause brain damage, but I understand that currently there's no evidence of that, and I would expect Mr. Reagan to be good as new once this was taken care of.
The surgery will be done this weekend, and doctors familiar with this type of operation say Mr. Reagan should be hospitalized 4 to 5 days, followed by 2 weeks to a month of at-home recuperation. Phil Jones, CBS News, Washington.
President Bush was out campaigning again today for what he calls his new war on drugs, added to the criticisms of some at home that his plan for fighting the drug plague offers not enough, nothing really new in the way of strategy, and no way to pay for it. An appeal comes now from Colombia, a complaint that its cocaine cartel criminals are armed to the teeth in many cases with assault weapons made and bought in the USA. Leslie Stahl begins our coverage.
Fighting a wall of criticism that he wants to wage the drug war on the cheap, President Bush went traveling to New Orleans to whip up support from Hispanics and from blacks.
When America decides that enough is enough, the dealers will not stand a chance, and I am determined to see America make that decision while I am President of the United States.
There is an irony in the president's fervent campaigning for a war on drugs because it's a war the public already supports. Mr. Bush is not asking for any sacrifice. In fact, according to the polls, he's appealing for less than the public wants and less than Congress wants.
A couple of people in Congress have said, let's up it, let's up it. They don't have very good ideas about how to up it any further for this fiscal year. But as I've said a number of times in my hearings, this is our number for 90. We'll be back again 91, 92, 93, and we'll probably ask for more.
The question of money permeates the drug debate. The president wants to pay for his plan by cutting other domestic programs.
The notion of shifting funds from hard-pressed programs which have already been raped to drugs is hardly the way that besieged black communities can afford to have the problem dealt with.
Mr. Bush claims that he has sent Congress specific ideas for budget cuts to offset increased spending for the drug fight. But congressional leaders say his cuts are both inadequate and unrealistic.
I think it might be more advantageous for the president to spend some time here to try to figure out how we're going to pay for this bill, because I think that's the bigger problem.
The Democrats have their own plan to pay for the drug fight. They want to cut the defense budget. President Bush is said to be deeply concerned. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, with the president in New Orleans.
Gruesome war the drug cartel has declared on the government and citizens of Colombia is being fought at least in part with American-made weapons. Semi-automatic assault rifles whose manufacture the Bush administration refuses to ban. Today, drug czar William Bennett acknowledged the problem.
It's disturbing to me, as I know it is to every American, that American arms are the ones of choice.
Arms of choice because the U.S., particularly Florida, is the easiest place for the cartel to shop. Bought legally over the counter, semi-automatics like the MAC-10 and the AR-15 are quickly smuggled illegally to South America.
The weapons are purchased legally here, 1 or 2 at a time, and then accumulated and then sent down in a shipment or 2.
Some are going out on airplanes and in luggage and things of that kind. Others were pretty sure are being, placed aboard boats and other things, ships that are going down there.
Customs agents have managed to intercept some shipments, but usually they find out about it after the fact. For instance, after American-made weapons were used in the bloody takeover of Colombia's Palace of Justice. Colombia's justice minister asked the U.S. to help stem the flow, but the Bush administration does not intend to go to the source by banning the sale of semi-automatics.
We do not want to, we've had this discussion before, interfere with the legitimate rights of gun owners and collectors and hunters.
In the hands of the drug cartel, American-made assault rifles could end up interfering with the safety of U.S. servicemen who are being sent to South America as part of the millions of dollars in military aid pledged by the Bush administration. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Still to come on the CBS Evening News, Bruce Hall on bad legal times for Jim and Tammy. And Bob Faw on big legal woes in college sports at the start of this new season.
Whole grain nutrition is important, but only one of these leading cereals has it. Only Wheaties is made with 100% whole grain. Just ask Michael Jordan. Better get your whole grain.
Better eat your Wheaties.
Now Red Lobster tempts you like never before with king crab legs, sweet snow crab, luscious Dungeness. It's our Crab Lovers Festival, starting at an incredible $6.95. Give in to temptation. 8 great crab and seafood platters you'll love, starting at just $6.95. The Crab Lovers Festival, now at Red Lobster. And kids get shrimp, a complete meal, just $1.95.
I'd rather switch than itch, so I switched to Tegrin.
Tegrin medicated shampoo controls all the major causes of itching and flaking, so Tegrin is more than strong enough for tough dandruff like yours.
Wouldn't you rather switch than itch?
After going to the hospital and after being treated for my broken finger, I realized that I had a headache. And the doctor suggested that I take Tylenol. It emphasized how much hospitals and how much doctors really trust Tylenol. So I went ahead and I took it. Ever since then, I've been using Tylenol.
Shelley Pyle trusts Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
If they feel it's good enough for their patients, then I feel it's good enough for me also.
Now try new gelatin-coated gel caps, only from Tylenol.
A Norwegian charter plane crashed into the sea off the coast of Denmark today, killing all 55 people aboard. It was en route from Oslo to Hamburg, West Germany, when air controllers lost contact. Wreckage and bodies were spread over a wide area. The plane, an aging U.S.-built Convair, apparently disintegrated before it hit the water. Cause not known. In Charlotte, North Carolina today, testimony in the Jim Baker fraud and conspiracy trial from people who helped finance what prosecutors charge was a kind of gospel of greed. For much of this week, proceedings have centered on charges that Baker, founder of television's lucrative PTL ministry, used almost $4 million in ministry funds to finance an extravagant personal lifestyle. Bruce Hall has our report.
Former followers of Jim and Tammy Baker, who once gave openly to PTL, lined a federal courtroom today to criticize the way the Bakers live. The Reverend Alan Four, a small-town Pennsylvania minister who sent more than $1,000 to PTL, testified that he felt robbed and cheated by the Bakers' extravagant lifestyle, by Jim's broken promises, and Tammy's expensive clothes and makeup. A half-dozen other PTL partners, retired and on Social Security, said they were never able to get rooms they had paid for at PTL, and that the ministry would not return their money.
The biggest thing I would like to hear, which I've always wanted to hear, was Jim and Tammy to say, you know, we did make a mistake and we're very, very sorry for that.
This afternoon, 2 of Baker's top aides were sentenced for tax evasion. Brothers James and David Taggart were given 17 and 18-year prison terms and $500,000 fines by the same judge who's hearing the Baker case.
And there's unfortunately a feeling among white-collar criminals that they're not going to be incarcerated for crimes like tax evasion. And Judge Potter said that that's got to stop.
As the trial completed its second week, events outside the courthouse have begun rivaling those inside.
I said, hallelujah. I said, praise your holy name.
Some spectators at the trial broke into prayer before being whisked away by a federal marshal. Talk show host Phil Donahue joined the growing parade looking for an exclusive interview with the Bakers.
This is what I call a great story, period.
He missed them departing, but did pick up a parking ticket. The government is expected to wrap up its case against Baker next week, with some of his closest aides testifying he diverted more than $4 million in PTL money for his own personal use. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Charlotte.
The United States Senate has approved legislation that would protect millions of disabled Americans, including most AIDS sufferers, from discrimination on the job and in public places. Final approval is still needed in the House of Representatives. Our law correspondent Rita Braver reports on the impact of a landmark bill.
For Dennis Smur, a city neighborhood is an obstacle course. Offices, shops, restaurants he cannot reach.
Is it too much to ask of making everything accessible?
Last night, the U.S. Senate said it is not too much to ask, with a 76-8 vote for the Americans with Disabilities Act.
This legislation is a bill of rights for the disabled, and America will be a better and fairer nation because of it.
The bill, covering mentally and physically disabled Americans, as well as individuals testing positive for the AIDS virus, says that employers of more than 15 may not discriminate against qualified disabled workers. Public accommodations, restaurants, hotels, doctors' offices, and shops must, where readily achievable, be made accessible. Telephone companies must provide services for the speech and hearing impaired, and over the next few years, trains and buses must be made accessible to the handicapped. But businesses argue that the costs are too great.
Wheelchair lifts applied to Greyhound's buses will be paid for by our passengers, and they are, in large part, America's poor. We don't think that's fair.
A substantial investment. For me, a substantial investment might be $20,000 to be spending to accommodate special laboratory treatment for the employee restrooms. That would be a very heavy penalty to pay.
But the pro-business Bush administration is backing the bill.
We've never put a price tag on the enjoyment of civil rights in this country, and I think this effort cannot be any exception.
The bill is also expected to win passage in the House. Dennis Smur, who works as a lobbyist for the Paralyzed Veterans of America, will be working hard to make it happen for 43 million disabled Americans.
There are so many individuals with disabilities that can be and want to be contributing members of society, but they've just been closed out.
Rita Braver, CBS News, Washington.
The delicious crunch of crackling oat bran has gotten you in trouble again. How do you defend yourself?
Did you eat all the crackling oat bran?
I don't have to answer that.
Did you eat all the crackling oat bran?
Well, you're the one holding the box.
Did you eat all the crackling oat bran?
What crackling oat bran?
With the irresistibly sweet taste of Kellogg's crackling oat bran, an open box is an empty box.
A recent test compared the Toyota Tercel stick shift, the Hyundai Excel stick shift, and the Subaru Justy automatic. But we made it tougher on the Justy, because you don't shift the Justy, and its ECVT automatic makes it accelerate and pass quicker than the Hyundai and the Toyota. Proof that Subaru can beat the competition with one arm tied behind its back. See your Subaru dealer for details on the special value lease program.
We're here to gently remind you that you can depend on your mom.
Phillips Milk of Magnesia, the laxative for dependable overnight relief that contains no harsh irritants.
So it's gentle.
Nobody treats you better than Phillips Milk of Magnesia.
Mom knows best. Leave it to Mom.
Squeeze out Wood Sheen. Wipe on a beautiful stain and protective oil finish in one. Wood Sheen dries in just 2 hours to a traditional hand-rubbed look. Try Wood Sheen from Minwax. So easy, it's the fastest way to a beautiful finish.
Final days of the campaign. Tuesday is primary election day in a more than usually important New York City mayor's race. Correspondent Richard Threlkeld looks tonight at a contest drawing nationwide attention as a possible indicator of big city politics and racial politics in 1989.
If big cities were like automobiles, the Big Apple would be pastime for a trade-in. Things are falling off and falling apart. Even the Yankees are a bunch of games below 500. And New Yorkers who must choose who's going to run this place for the next 4 years are, to say the least, cranky. So why is this man smiling? Mayor Ed Koch, who's been the duty officer during the city's recent decline and the fall of several of his associates on corruption charges, is running for a record 4th term. And the smart money people here are betting he may get it.
I've never felt as comfortable as I feel now.
This wasn't supposed to happen. Ed Koch was supposed to lose to the Republican Rudy Giuliani, but his campaign has been slowly self-destructing. And given the Democrats' 5-to-1 edge in registration, Giuliani's chances in the November general election are marginal at best. Or Koch was supposed to lose in the Democratic primary to David Dinkins, who'd be the city's first black mayor. Decent, honest, quiet, maybe too quiet, despite his efforts to sell that as a virtue.
David Dinkins for mayor. You don't have to be loud to be strong.
Everything changed in the violent aftermath of an awful night last month in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn, when a gang of whites set upon and murdered a young black man, setting blacks against whites in angry confrontation, and radically altering a campaign that was supposed to be about crime and crack and competence in office.
Bensonhurst was a terrible stain on the city, and it has turned the election into, as I said, a referendum on race, which it shouldn't be.
And the mayor's attempts to defend the white neighborhoods in Brooklyn have made black New Yorkers more suspicious of him than ever.
It is wrong to refer to Bensonhurst as Johannesburg or as Selma, Alabama. It's just not comparable. It's unfair.
So now the issue is who can patch up New York's body politic.
Ed Koch is the great divider. Dave Dinkins can be the great healer.
Felix Rohatyn thinks the issue transcends both men.
There's no choice here. We can't let anything happen other than one way or another bring this city together. And whoever the next mayor is, he's going to have to do it. The public will demand it.
Well, perhaps, but with the mayor and Dinkins deadlocked in the polls, this election is likely to be decided by those New Yorkers who will be voting for one man just because he's white, or for the other man just because he's black. That won't be much of a mandate. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, New York.
When Ocean Spray adds sweet plump strawberries to tangy cranberries, something cool and refreshing happens to salads. New Cran Fruit brand sauces add a cool, refreshing zing to everything.
If they could see you now, they'd see you're having fun. Taking in the sights and playing in the sun. They won't believe that you are such a good sport. Buying all those gifts in a tropical port. All I can say is, wow, I'm having such a ball. What a bunch of holy cow. They'd never believe it if your friends could see you now.
Take a 3, 4, 7-day cruise on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
This sweet young thing just told my husband he's a very attractive, older man. I'm his age, so what does that make me?
Oil of Olay.
An older woman? Ooh, never.
So similar to the fluid in young skin, penetrating quickly, adding softness and fullness.
I don't intend to grow old gracefully.
Oil of Olay.
Age looks so much better on a man.
Original and now sensitive.
How strong is Extra Strength Tums EX? Heartburn strikes, Tums strikes back. Heartburn's gone that fast. Tums EX, twice as strong, twice as fast as regular Rolaids.
Quote, the last stronghold of hypocrisy. That's what a famous sports writer called big-time college football as it was played in the 1920s and 30s, with its demand even then for sold-out stadiums and victory at all cost. Now, 50 years later, there are volumes of rules regulating college sports and an organization which is supposed to enforce those rules. But Bob Fall explains why critics charge it's still business as usual in that sports world. Big business.
If you ever doubted that big-time college sports is big business, listen to University of Nebraska Athletic Director Bob Devaney peddle something a local dairy just whipped up, an ice cream called Quarterback Crunch.
That's probably the finest ice cream that has been produced in the state of Nebraska in a long while.
Devaney has had to turn pitchman to raise dollars for a program that won't be getting some big money it had been counting on. Not because of something it did, but because of something its opponents did. When the NCAA banned Oklahoma and Oklahoma State from bowl games and TV appearances because of recruiting violations, the NCAA not only hurt them, it also hurt other teams in the conference that had banked on those TV revenues.
We figure that we will lose about $500,000 a year.
Yet when the NCAA seems to be cracking down on cheaters, it's had to withstand a storm of criticism aimed at the organization itself and its rules, which critics contend, and even some defenders concede, are arcane, arbitrary, and asinine.
The way the rules are, that, you know, every single thing that you do is some kind of a violation. So I think that in that respect, I think just about everybody is violating some rule.
And since only a tiny fraction of the NCAA's huge budget is spent enforcing the rules, critics complain that enforcement is either haphazard or heavy-handed, and that NCAA procedures which permit the use of hearsay are badly flawed.
NCAA enforcement justice was justice by ambush. If they decide to get you, they're going to get you.
We start with good pressure on about 2 passes.
Many believe the NCAA was out to get one of its biggest critics, UNLV basketball coach Jerry Tarkanian. But after 12 years of legal wrangling, during which Tarkanian produced witnesses who swore the NCAA had twisted their testimony to hurt him, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that as a private organization, the NCAA could discipline its members as it saw fit.
It was 100% hearsay in the course of the university's infraction hearings. There was nothing other than hearsay presented at that time.
It was a Gestapo. It was an intimidation mentality. Many of the tactics were illegal that they used to try to find false information.
The NCAA has changed its leadership and its rules, but critics insist the changes are tinkering, that the rules are still too cumbersome, that the deck is still stacked against the accused.
In every other proceeding that I can think of, one gets an opportunity to confront an accuser.
Not here.
Not here. In the NCAA, that source is never present during the infractions proceeding.
Even though critics contend the NCAA is still running a star chamber, 90% of schools charged with infractions are ultimately punished, the NCAA denies anyone is being railroaded.
You're telling me the procedures that are currently in use are procedures which you as a professor of law have no trouble accepting?
That's correct.
They are fair on the face of them?
Yes.
Neither rules nor procedures will change much, says the NCAA president, because most schools think they are needed to keep the other guy from cheating. Nothing will change much, everyone agrees, as long as college presidents who suspect wrongdoing look the other way.
The pressure is still there. I don't care. You can have them all graduating, all making straight A's. If you lose ball game, it's just as simple as that. You're gone. You're going to lose your job.
Given values like that, the top priority in college sports will remain commercializing the games, not keeping them clean. Bob Fall, CBS News, Kansas City.
Engine parts that may hold vital clues are still missing from the July crash of a United Airlines DC-10 in Sioux City, Iowa. And a spokesman for the Federal Aviation Administration today said it will order a detailed inspection of the metal in General Electric DC-10 engines of the type involved in that crash, which claimed 112 lives. Investigators believe the middle engine disintegrated, severing hydraulic lines that control flight. Both the search for missing parts in the Iowa farm fields and the inspection focus on the large fan disc, which authorities say probably broke into only 2 or 3 pieces. Mother Teresa of Calcutta is in the hospital recovering from heart problems. Her doctor said today that the condition of the 79-year-old nun was improving. Mother Teresa won the Nobel Prize in 1979 for her work with the poor and dying in India.
Attention shredded wheat eaters, you've been missing something. Taste, but no more. Kellogg's Squares brings you that superlative shredded wheat nutrition with no salt, no fat, no cholesterol. But wait, Kellogg's Squares gives you free in every bite. Taste! Sweet, delectable fruit in the middle. You might never eat plain old shredded wheat again. Kellogg's Squares, shredded wheat with taste, free in every bite. And speaking of taste, now Squares have 35% more raisin. Great taste, free.
Eat fish twice a week.
Your doctor knows.
It's good to eat. Helps your heart to keep the beat.
Helps slim you down from head to feet.
Get rid of meat. So twice a week, seafood and fish.
Lobster.
Scallops.
That's delicious.
Haddock makes a lovely dish.
Holy mackerel, try monkfish.
Fillet of sole. So every week, eat fish twice.
Try halibut steaks.
That's quite nice. To cook a fish, take this advice.
10 minutes an inch, that should suffice.
So eat fish twice a week.
It's easy, tasty.
I think it's chic.
The official spokesfish now will speak.
Eat fish and seafood twice a week.
There are headaches
And the car payment is overdue.
and headaches. There's aspirin and Anacin. The Anacin aspirin formula relieves headaches better than regular aspirin.
Feeling better, hun?
Not just better, better. Anacin, better relief.
Now a great cherry taste comes to Maalox Strength. New Maalox Plus Cherry Cream Tablets with the medicine doctors recommend most and a cherry taste you'll love. New Maalox Plus Cherry Cream Tablets. Strong relief for all your Maalox moments.
Well, we end the week on a bittersweet note. The bitter part is that another summer is just about over. The sweet part is that scientists may have solved a mystery that could reduce the visits of a summer visitor no one welcomes. Richard Schlesinger reports.
Joe Elkington is stalking a killer. He is an entomologist, a specialist in controlling gypsy moths, the voracious leaf-eating insect. For the past decade, the caterpillar moths have eaten their way across the Northeast, leaving behind thousands of bare trees. Now, all of a sudden, something is killing them by the millions.
Their body shrivels up and they die.
There's a dead one.
For years, gypsy moths have resisted pesticides, so when the dead caterpillars started piling up, scientists knew they were facing a mystery.
They seemed to be plastered against the trees, and this was highly unusual because we had never seen anything like this before.
After examining the caterpillar cadaver, scientists now believe they have solved the mystery. They found what may be an obscure and always fatal fungus. It is a Japanese import brought here in 1910 by Massachusetts botanist Reginald Colley. He reported the fungus had no impact on gypsy moths and forgot about it. Scientists now believe the fungus spread slowly for 80 years, remaining dormant until this spring when unusually heavy rain unleashed its deadly power.
All of a sudden we had the right moisture conditions, and then the fungus just took off and was able to infect a lot of caterpillars, and it just went like wildfire.
Scientists are trying to mass-produce the fungus so it can be sprayed in gypsy moth-infested areas. These insects have never had a foe with so much potential. In their heyday, gypsy moths were more than just pests. They were a pain. They ate the legendary ledgered oak, once one of the oldest trees in Connecticut, now, like the sign says, officially declared dead.
The only word I can describe it is disgusting. They covered the houses. Driveways became slippery. We even had stories of people carrying umbrellas.
The fungus is no panacea. Even if spraying it works, there will still be gypsy moths, just not quite so many. So the people here will not have to carry umbrellas unless it's raining. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, Ledyard, Connecticut.
And that's part of our world tonight. Dan Rather for the CBS Evening News. See you Monday. Good night.
Hollywood stars being blacklisted. This newsletter is naming names, and some people are getting worried. The inside stories on Entertainment Tonight.
Tonight at 10:30.
And coming up on News Channel 5, more money troubles for Metro Center. It has filed for bankruptcy. We'll have the story. A shootout at a trailer park leaves 2 men dead, and police say there are a lot of coincidences in the killings. More details tonight about the Reverend jailed on sex abuse charges. There's a new plan to cut the noise at airport neighborhoods, but will it work? Those stories, and Leroy has found something beautiful hidden in the kudzu vines. 6 o'clock report is next.
It's a Hain sale.